I think you guys are gonna like Halloween Kills. I mean, it is. It's Halloween 2018 on steroids.
Here he is.
So it's nice to meet you, James. My name's Will, and you've already met Jack already, I think.
You might have already met me. I had blonde hair. You probably don't remember me. I was at London Film and Comic Con. Okay. You was asking about you took pictures of the Posca pen that you liked.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, man, I got them. And so
you got them now.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, they are.
Good stuff. I'm glad I helped.
That's really good.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys are in Manchester, huh?
No, we're in London.
London.
You're in London. Okay. Yeah. I'm just trying to put it all together. All right. Good enough.
Is that Comic-Con? Is that For the Love of Horror in Manchester then?
No. I was asking where you're at right now.
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah. So we're in London. Yeah.
Yeah, we're London.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for doing this, James. I mean, it's honestly crazy for us. Like, we've actually started making videos 3 months ago, and we've already had some great people on. We've had David Howard Fortin, who's from Terrifier, and then we've got you. It's insane. Like, we can't believe it. It's honestly ridiculous.
Nice.
It just goes to show how much of a great guy you are. And it's always the people who play the psycho films who are always the nicest people in real life.
Man, I've said this before. Is a spirit guide of mine, and one of my great all-time favorites as an actor was a man named Basil Rathbone, and he had done like Robin Hood and Captain Blood, and he played tons and tons of evil characters. But it was said of him, because he was Errol Flynn's good friend, it was said of him that, of the two, Basil had the easiest job because he was a super nice guy who played super villainous, evil characters. And Errol Flynn was a piece of shit who needed to play really, really nice guys, And so Basil had the easier job. So maybe there's something to that.
Yeah. We need to let you know that because we don't own Zoom, this is the free trial version. So we only get 40 minutes. Okay. And then if that expires, we'll just quickly email you another link, and you can just join that. It'll be the same as last one, basically. But yeah, so I've got a timer on my phone to make sure we don't run out. So yeah, but yeah, we're recording now. We're just gonna go straight into it like we're on Joe Rogan or something. But yeah. So yeah, so how are you, James? How's things in America right now?
Man, this COVID thing is crazy. I know it is for you guys too.
Yeah.
For us, for me. I shut down whole 2020. I don't go back to work until August. So, it's a year and a half and I'm a kinesthetic person, man. I need to be moving. But I find, in the years that, as a stuntman, as an athlete, whenever I get injured and I'd be laid up for a day, a week, a month, or whatever, I found the universe is like telling me to sit down, shut up, and pay attention. And so, cleaning out closets, moving out old relationships, preparing for what happens after this. So I think there's, aside from the tragedy of it all, I think there's benefit in it for all of us.
Yeah, that's quite true. Have you started any new hobbies or anything that has helped you grow as a person?
No, more of the same, actually. I haven't been as involved in my music as I has intended to be. I've got a piano sitting over there that I haven't really played, and my guitars are all over there. But it's been more of an internal process for me, and again, cleaning out old closets and literally cleaning out everything in the house, all the closets and the attic and everything else. So, but just anxious to get back to work, man. Anxious to do the conventions again. I love that. I just love the conventions.
Yeah, Jack's been trying to, because Jack's the big horror fan out of both of us, and like he's kind of slowly drawing me into that whole thing. And he's saying, you've got to come to these conventions, you've got to meet all these people, and I'm definitely up for it now. But obviously, I've got to wait a long time before any of that happens again.
Yeah, I think the next English one I have is next one in the UK is in Manchester, and I believe there's a smaller one in London. My agent is setting me up one, not the big one, but a smaller one. But he said it would be just as much fun, just more intimate. I can't remember who runs it or what. But I can't wait to get back. I can't wait to get back.
And with your stuntman lifestyle, Jack's big into his fitness, so he's got a very important question to ask you to sort of help him as well.
Over here, are we in the third lockdown now? We are, aren't we?
The third one, yeah.
I don't know how relaxed it is in America, but the gyms are shut over here. So I've got my own little setup, but I was just wondering how you're coping, because I know you like to go to the gym and obviously stay fit quite a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, when the gyms were locked out, I had my brother happened to have a universal weight machine.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you should pretty much do everything on it. And so, and he wasn't using it. He has, all my sons are, all my brothers are great athletes, and my nieces and nephews are athletes, you know, state and national champion level athletes, wrestling, soccer, tennis, you know. And so I grabbed that thing, threw it in the garage, and was hitting that. I've got a swimming pool, so I was swimming, but the gyms are open now. So, you know, we just go, I go, you know, in the middle of the day when there's nobody there, maybe 5 or 7 people, just kind of, you know, get a good hour-and-a-half workout in, but it was tough for a while. It was tough.
Yeah.
I feel for you guys if you can't get in the gym, man.
It's crazy. How long has it been closed now? Well, I think it's
it was closed from like March till June, and then it was open from like June, July till November, and then it's just been shut since then.
It's just been shut now. We can't have any gyms, nothing like that.
No.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the right answer is. You know, I mean, you know, I go in, I wear a mask, and I stay away from other people. Not that I'm afraid of it, but I'm trying to respect it. You know, I'm trying to respect you know, what the scientists are saying, and I mean, there's so little we know about this thing. The crazy thing is, I have a large family. I have 6 brothers, 4 still living. My mom is still alive. We've all been exposed, but the only ones who've contracted COVID have been my sisters-in-law, and some nieces and nephews, of course, have their DNA. So I'm wondering what's going on with the DNA thing. You know, like, why is it nobody in my family, and my, you know, nuclear family, has contracted it when all of us have clearly been, you know, exposed to it. So, but I'm still being careful. I still don't, you know, I mean, we have restaurants are open, but they space tables now, and bars are limited. They're closing everything early. But things are moving here, you know. So it's not as crazy as you guys having to do it. I mean, it's got to be tough for y'all.
Oh yeah,
we're kind of used to it now. I mean, it's almost been a year. I finished my university course over it, so I've kind of not really been affected by it. I was always shut inside anyway.
Yeah.
So like, it's literally going to feel like a completely new life once it's over. But yeah, you could got to make do with the situation you have. Try and better yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think there are going to be some good changes, you know, that will come with this, things that we'll learn both socially and personally, and you know, it'll be great when we get back out in the real world and get to do conventions again, and you know, release our next film in October. I'm sure people will be dying to get back into theaters. We're going to shoot Halloween Ends, or we're starting to prep in August, so you know, we'll shoot August, September, October, and you know, and hopefully be done right before we start the whole premiere circuit, which will bring me to the UK and Europe and South America and Australia and Japan, and Toronto, New York, and LA. So I'll be doing premieres all over the world. Hopefully we'll be all opened up by then.
Yeah.
Is the premiere in London, is it Leicester Square? Would you go to that theatre?
I don't know, man.
Okay, because I can get there in
that
like
stuff. I just let my agent handle it, and I just
I know a secret bar that overlooks the entire thing. So whenever there's a premiere, I'll go to that bar and I can just watch the whole thing for free.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I did it for Star Wars.
Nice.
So it's good. Yeah. So on the topic of Halloween, I watched one of your previous interviews to make sure I wasn't boring you with the same boring questions you always get. And I noticed you spoke about how much you loved the original when you first saw it. And I was wondering, if you were to go back and tell your younger self that that's going to be you eventually, what would your reaction have been?
Wow. You know, man, I wonder if I would have even told my younger self, because I might have implanted ideas in my head that, and I've learned in my life, you know, I've been around long enough to learn that what's mine comes to me. So I don't really pursue things. I don't, you know, at this point in the game, I don't pursue roles. I mean, yes, I'll reach out for money to produce my film, but I'm not going to doggedly pursue it like I used to, or doggedly pursue my career. And I think, you know, the way this role happened for me, it was the perfect culmination of all the things I'd done professionally, you know, and my deep spiritual work. I mean, you know, I've gone and traipsed through the Andes with shaman, and gone to the jungles and done plant medicine, done ayahuasca, and I've worked with Native American shaman in North America and Cuba and Africa, and, you know, Native African shaman and plant medicine, and I've studied multiple different spiritual traditions, and you know, lots of meditation, and you know, decades of martial arts. And so I think, you know, and the way I played this character was so much a culmination of that, and such a deep internal process, no taking notes, no conscious decisions, just all internal. I think at the point that I'm at right now, if I'd go back, I would probably not say anything. I'd probably just say, just focus on, just do the inner work, man. Just do the inner work, be the flame, not the moth, and just let it come to you. And, that being said, it's, yeah, because anticipation okay. So in the realm of manifestation, the whole, whether it's Tony Robbins or Zig Ziglar or, all these gurus who tell people how to manifest the world they want. They tell you to create it in your mind and just feel it with gratitude. And, and for several years before I was cast as the Shape, in my mind, I would go, James Jude Courtney is the next. And I never completed that sentence, but I would just kind of get this feeling. I go, James Jude Courtney is the next. And then I'd let it go. And then finally, literally months before I got the call to do the film, I went, dude, I'm going to stop saying that. I'm just going to stop saying it, and I stopped saying it to myself. And sure enough, I get a call and I'm the next Michael Myers. I mean, go figure.
That's quite a good attitude, because at the moment I'm at the point where I'm looking for jobs, so I don't want to. I might just take your advice and not stop looking, but stop searching and deliberately trying to make something happen, and getting disappointed about it if it doesn't.
The key to it is living in gratitude for the fact that it is already happening.
Yeah.
Like I know it's coming. I know it's here. I know it's already here. I'm grateful for it. I'm going to make a fuck ton of money. I'm allowed to say that here?
Yeah.
Okay. And you know what I mean? So just live in that world, because when we create that magnetism, then it truly does come to us, man. It really does.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to do that. I mean, that's because that whole spirituality stuff you're talking about, we don't get that really over here, because we don't have Native Americans and South American culture here. It's just English culture, which is quite boring, to be honest. So that's really fascinating to us to hear about that. But Jack's got loads of questions, so I don't want to keep hogging his time. But I do have one question, because I love films and just film culture in general. I want to know, what was that atmosphere like on set when you put that costume on for the first time, walked out of your trailer? Was it all just like, I don't know, the Queen turning up at an event and everyone was just all eyes on James?
A pompous band playing.
Yeah.
No, it was, I'd already created the internal world that I existed in to play that character. And, I created it, I've said this before, but I think it bears repeating. When I was going to go down to be put on tape, when they called me and asked me to come be put on tape to, play the role, I watched the original one time, and there was one particular scene where I saw, and so let me backtrack. There's a great old character actor named Ted Knight who was on a show called The Mary Tyler Moore Show here in the United States. It was a TV show, but he's a comic actor. And back when I first moved to Los Angeles, I met him, and he gave me a beautiful gift. He said, learn, if you really want to be a deep and powerful actor, learn to emulate. And so we emulate a guy walking down the street, emulate the bartender, emulate everybody around you. But when you emulate them, don't focus logically on the way they're turning their feet, or the way they curl their lip, or the way they raise their brow. Reach inside their soul, like reach inside them, grasp who they are, and let that drive how you move. So I practiced that, and then of course with all the spirituality and the plant medicine and all that, it sort of created the interior, the terrain for that. So I watched the original one time, and there's a particular scene where Nick Castle as Michael Myers as the Shape is walking camera left to camera right across the backyard, and in my mind I went, I got it. Whatever that was that he created, I mean, he created it so organically. I mean, he's such a talented guy. He's such a crazy talented guy. He created that organically. I reached in and got it. And then, so everything that I did when I was put on tape, it just was naturally already mine, but it had to come through the vehicle of my body and, the martial arts and the dance and, all the things that I happen to be. So when they put me on tape, and it was down in Charleston. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. So I'm an hour and a half away from where, David Gordon Green and Danny McBride and all those guys live and work. Mm-hmm. So I literally got out into the parking lot. I hadn't even got out of the parking lot. I got a call from California, from Blumhouse, saying, "Hey, are you available to make the film?" I'm like, yeah, I'm available. Didn't even get to the freeway, which is like 3 miles away. And they called me back and they said, hey, can you come back? David wants to meet you. So I went back, I met David. So, flash forward to making the film, the costume, yeah, that's just gearing up. That's no different than playing football or lacing up your gloves to box. I mean, that was just a part of the accoutrement. But it's when camera rolls and dude, the first time I put that mask on, it was like, a 10 billion gigawatt, there was like this connection that happened. And when it happened, Christopher Nelson had just flown in from Los Angeles, and he had this beautiful ancient leather Halliburton, and had 2 masks in it. And there are multiple hero masks. I've got one right over there. And so, like we had done a days-long rehearsal on that long tracking shot, and it was like late at night. He comes in, David Green, Danny McBride, the stunt coordinator, Ron Hutchinson, and Ryan Turek was there from Blumhouse. And I think, so we were surrounded by people, and he pulls it out. Everybody looks at it. Whoa, what a piece of art. So then Chris walks over and puts it on me, and everybody collectively, like in one voice, just went, oh, like there's this guttural sound, and it was silence. And I felt that connection. So, whether I was wearing the mask or not wearing the mask in the first one and in Halloween Kills, it didn't matter because I go to the same place. But wearing that mask, dude, it takes you to another place. I will not put that mask on at a con. I will not put it on for an interview. I will not put it on for a special appearance, because what happens to me when I put that mask on is something I don't want to happen unless I'm really in the space to do what I got to do.
Gosh, Jack, don't put that leather face mask on behind you as well.
Yeah, I'll wear that leather face. That isn't, as I said, just add to that, it's just, you said with fitting the role and the character, I think that's the most intimidating Michael Myers mask as well. I don't know what it is about it. Just if you look at all of the standard ones, it feels different. I don't know if you feel the same way with that as well.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think first of all, Christopher Nelson, he's Academy Award winning. I mean, his work is astounding. He also, there are few people who know as much about this character or the franchise as Christopher Nelson does. Yeah, Ryan Turek does. My great buddy, Zach Myers, Michael Zachary Myers, who's the songwriter, guitarist for the band Shinedown. He is a total, they Sean Clark, they can nerd out and they know so much more than I even know about the franchise. But so I think it took, Christopher's knowledge of what would happen to this character after 40 years, what would happen to the mask after 40 years. And then of course it was molded to my face. So I don't know that any of the other masks were necessarily molded to the face.
No.
So any movement that I make is going to be organic to how my face and body and head move. But absolutely, I don't think any of the masks could even possibly compare to that.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything like that before. When you hear people saying, "Oh, I have a whip and I'm Indiana Jones," I've never heard anything of a proper film literally changing you and just literally taking you over. I mean, I had chills listening to you saying how it literally just changes you as a person putting that mask on.
It's a deep place, man. And David Green had said to me at some point on 2018, he said he had worked with a guy in a film who had gone as deep as I go, psychologically. And he said, dude ended up in a psych ward for 2 months. He's like, he couldn't get out of it. But I've had so much experience, I used to hang out with a former chief of staff, Cedar Sinai psychiatric ward. And we would do ayahuasca in his backyard. And I'm sitting there with incredible minds, doctors and luminaries from various different fields. We would go to these very deep places and then we'd sit around his table and talk about it. So, the ability to go into that place, and then the important thing is getting out of it. The important part is breathing into it and then breathing out of it. So while I'm in that space, I'm not me. There's something else that's taken over me, but I can breathe out of it and not take it home with me at night.
Yeah, that is a good thing to have. It's very similar to like history. The most famous one is Heath Ledger getting into the role of the Joker, but this sounds like he could kind of, he became it. Whereas if you can't help it if you put this mask on, you have to put the mask on. Right. It's like, whether you like it or not, you are Michael Myers.
Well, as the story goes, Jack Nicholson told him not to do it. He was like, it's just way too much. Don't do it. And I think, again, so had I gone back to 1978 and told myself that I was going to play this character someday, I might not have been as prepared. I might have just taken it for granted that it was just like every other character that I might have played, which it's not.
Did you think that was going to happen? It consuming you as much as it would? Or do you think it was just going to be, I'll get into the character, I'll put the mask on, take it off?
There was zero, like, I didn't use it, so there's very little left brain with this character. And I've done that. I did that when I played the Kinderstoad in Buffy.
Yeah.
I've done it. I've been there. It's where you go musically. When you play and sing, right? It's you leave yourself. Even Keith Richards, in his most addled, drug and alcohol addled space, admitted that it wasn't him. He goes, right, I just step out of the way and I let it come through me. And that's basically, once you've honed your instrument to that point, you can get to that place where you can allow that flow to happen, and then you're not acting anymore. It's being. It's the art of being. And then the question is, do you have the space to hold that character? And and again, all those years and years and years of preparation allowed me to hold that for whatever space was needed for myself and for David and for the people that were involved with. I'm not going to intellectualize it until after I've finished Halloween Ends. Sure.
I feel like if you delve too deep into it, you may lose the understanding of the physical nature of it if you analyze it too much.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. And I want to be, when I show up at the end of this year in Christopher Nelson's makeup trailer for the very first morning, I want to be in the exact same spiritual place I was for Halloween Kills and Halloween 2018. And I will be, because I'm not intellectualizing it. I'm when people want to, especially people who are interested in acting and writing and they want to understand the complexities of the character and understand why he does what he does, I don't go there. It just is.
I think when you finish Halloween Ends, you should write a book about how, that'll be a very interesting book about the mask taking over you. I think that'd be really interesting.
That would be.
I mean, who knows?
Well, I think I've hogged too much of Jack's time. So Jack, please ask your questions.
That first one, that was my first question. I was going to try and hit you a pun there. I was going to say, how do you get in shape to play the shape? You've obviously answered. I don't know how you up your weight training, but I wanted to get to the mental aspect of it, because I was saying you do a lot of horrible things in that movie, but you already seem quite spiritually grounded and that you can bring yourself out of it that other actors can't. But no, I think you covered that first point quite well with that.
Yeah, it's from a physical point of view, I of course am in better shape and less better shape, and I judge myself when I'm carrying a little bit too much body fat, or I haven't trained as hard, or I'm not as limber. But by and large, I trained basically the same way I did as a young college athlete. So that really hasn't changed a whole lot. I'm just more careful with my joints. I don't throw up the weight that I used to throw up. I don't do some of the things that I used to do that would be more that would attack my my injuries. For instance, I used to love to play basketball. I was pretty decent at it. I can dunk backwards and dunk with either hand, and I will never dunk a basketball again in my life. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to take that risk.
Yeah.
So I've learned to preserve my body. I still train hard. I still watch my diet. I eat really well. And then, so starting probably 2 months before we do Halloween Ends, I'm going to shift my diet, shift my training, and go for the body that I want for that particular iteration, where the shape is gone for that particular iteration. And it's going to be different than where I was for Kills and different for where I was in 2018.
Yeah.
So, you just take your time. I mean, like any athlete, to prepare for, if a UFC fighter or a footballer or whatever is going to prepare for a season or prepare for a fight, those things are going to change naturally. And that's fun. I mean, that's fun. That's, discipline. I mean, discipline is one of the greatest joys in the world. Anybody who's an athlete knows that, so I look forward to that.
I think you're Michael. As I said, you've got like the extreme versions. I still love Rob Zombie's, but Tyler Mane, who's like 6'9", and he just built. It's more your build you're big, but it's more of a realistic build. I think it fits Michael more, where you're strong as well in it, but you're not overtly strong. Like Tyler, who just like smashes their head against it, caves it, and you're more repeatedly hit and more in charge almost in a way?
Yeah, I think ideally, the way, David cast me and the way, I particularly move, the way I particularly fight when, martial arts, boxing, whatever, I think was in keeping with the way David and Danny and Jeff Radley wrote that script. I mean, they knew what they were looking at. And I think Tyler did a great job for what Rob Zombie created, and Tyler Mane was perfect for that. But by the way, he's a great guy. He's a great human being. Just a great, but that's what Rob Zombie wanted to create, and Tyler Mane was a perfect guy to do it.
I just have to make a point about De Kingston. You said earlier, I was talking to my fiance today, and they were talking about you with what interview, and my fiance sent a picture to her sister Maddie of De Kingston, and she was like, please don't show me that. He gave me nightmares, his performance in that. So I was wondering if that's a bit channeled, if you used any other characters. Obviously, Nick was a huge inspiration with it as well, but if you brought other characters through a little bit as well with that performance.
No, I'd say for, when I did the Buffy thing, I went to a very similar place and allowed my interpretation to just drive the way my body moved. And I remember when I auditioned for that role, producers and director and this whole room full of people, and it was all about movement. It was the movement that got me that role, but the movement was completely driven from the inside. And so there was no thought process. I find, there are certain roles that people can play that need a lot of intellectual attention, and then there's some that are just so internally driven that you just have to allow and trust that. And so, yes, I came from very similar places for both of those. And both of those places were like no mind, no thought. The place ideally you go to when you're in a martial match, or when you're playing music, or when you're doing all the beautiful things that we find so rewarding in life. We're in that place of no mind, and that's where I went. So,
no, that's good. We talked about David Green earlier. I heard on set, I wasn't sure if this was true, but he was really free flowing with the script. So each scene, it was sort of play by play and sort of discussing what kind of impact, or did you have anything you wanted to change that we might not have seen on the cut during the actual 2018 film?
Oh, he flows, man. So we'll be in the middle of something and he'll go, this is just not working. And so he'll just whip out his laptop and just start tapping away. I complimented him on this after Kills. He elicits and solicits creativity from anywhere and everywhere on the set. I mean, he has zero ego when it comes to him being a director. He is not a dictator. He's quite the opposite. And when I commented, I was like, dude, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, man. I've worked with some pretty amazing directors. I've never worked with a director who just checked his ego at the door and just was, open for any source of inspiration or creativity that could be found. And he's like, look, man, making a film to me is like a choir. It's like a chorus. It's like if you're missing one voice, you're missing out. Like, it's going to be noticed. But if every voice is reaching its fullest potential, then we've done what we need to do, and we create beautiful music. And so, there are several instances during Kills where he would call me over to the monitor. I don't like to watch myself, but I will if I'm called over, and ask me about something, or he asked me about a certain scene and I had an idea, and at a certain point he goes, all right, Shape, it was your idea, take it away. And I'm like, whoa, dude, all right, man, let's do it. And so he's really he's the most collaborative director I've ever worked with. I mean, he's a joy to work with. He's so empathic and so empathetic. So he feels what everybody's feeling. And so he has his fingers on the pulse of the entire emotional, content of the entire cast and crew. Yeah. It's quite extraordinary. When David Green cast me, when he called me, which was cast, and as far as I know, they looked at or talked to a previous one who was not in the physical condition to do it, Tom Morga, I believe it was, and then they might have talked to a few other people, but I'm the only, as I understand it, the only person they really considered once they saw me, and I was one of the, if not the first person they really saw. so David calls me. I'm sitting at, in my house that I just bought back here in South Carolina. I just moved back from Los Angeles to be where I grew up. And so David calls me and goes, okay, so Jimmy, I love the way you move. I want this to be really cat-like. And I was like, it's kind of funny, man, because my cat Parsifal is sitting in my lap right now. And, Parsifal I named as a cross between Percival of the Arthurian legend and Parsifal, which was the Teutonic Grail Knight, the Wagnerian Parsifal is the only Grail Knight that was badass enough and pure enough to attain the Grail, which was Christed consciousness in some mythologies. So and my cat Parsifal was a stray when I moved into the neighborhood, people said you can't touch him, you get near him. Within a month, he's hanging out with me. Within 2 months, he's sleeping on my bed every night, But I watched him chase down raccoons. Like I watched him chase 4 raccoons once. They're twice his size. And they were scared shitless. And I went, dude, this is going to be a vet bill. He chases around the corner. Then he comes back, swiping at the biggest one, right on his ass, man. And I went, oh man, this is good. I'm gonna have to take him to the vet. Then he comes just trotting up stairs, turns around, sits down next to me, starts purring. I was like, okay. So I watched him a lot. I watched him hunt rats, and I watched him hunt, roof rats in the city, and squirrels. Dude was stealth, and that's the kind of thing that. So it's interesting you say that, because it's that cat-like quality that David asked me to bring. But I had studied a cat when I did their Kinderstore. That was sort of the movement that I sort of emulated.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, yeah. That's interesting.
So thank you for acknowledging that, actually, because that was the intention. That was David's intention, and Parsifal is my muse. When it comes to, I know Nick has Michael Meowers, but I think Parsifal would kick his ass personally.
Obviously, you can't say anything spoiler-wise, but you said about the narrative and how much it's free-flowing. Even seeing the trailer for Kills, it's almost like a Shakespearean narrative. It's such a good setup. From 2018, it's almost like the setup with the Strodes, the family coming together. This second one seems like it's going to be, you have to say, obviously, but absolutely chaotic. And I'm just so interested as a fan as well. I wanted to know, just you watching it as a fan, obviously you know what happens in Kills, but like how this is going and how excited I am.
Well, what's really interesting is how prescient they are as writers. But David and Danny and Jeff created the first one, and then the second one. The first one we're dealing with the issues of female empowerment, addiction issues, family issues. We're dealing with all these issues that we're dealing with in our societies, globally right now. In the second one, and this is keep in mind we shot this in fall of 2019. We're dealing with mob mentality. We're dealing with, with the mentality of collective fear. What do we see happening, in our country, for instance, especially, the recent happenings sort of bring out the question of what happens when a mob mentality is infused with fear. We have to look at, and so it's amazing that that these filmmakers have brought this to and non-judgmentally, just saying, look, this is a slice of life, this is a part of what we're dealing with. Everybody who has seen Halloween Kills says it's better than 2018. I mean, it's and we knew making 2018 it was special. Every one of us there knew it was special. We knew making Halloween Kills it was special too. I mean, and it's brutal. It's freaking brutal.
You see from the trailer, but especially because we're doing review channels. We reviewed it with Sam, who's another person who's part of the channel, but he hasn't seen Halloween before. So we were doing it and we sort of fit him in, like, watch this, but it's just such a perfect film where you can be a super fan, but you can also just jump in. Like Sam completely understood it, like from the backstory and explaining it, but it just flows so well. That's what I'm so curious to know about. I'm so excited the way it's going. And it's almost like what you said then. It was bad last year. It was gutted. It got delayed. But it's coming out in a really important time almost now. And I really do hope, if it's October 22nd it comes out here, I really do hope it comes out because it's in a current time where I think we need it in a way.
I agree. And given the social issues that it looks at it because it shines a light on them in a non-judgmental way. It just says, look, this is one slice of the way our society works, the way humanity works, the way human beings work. I think those issues that they bring up in Halloween Kills are best looked at in retrospect to what we've just experienced, at least here in this country in the last year. Or even, more, but because then, once we've lived through it, once we've digested it, then we get the opportunity to, see it reflected back to us in a film. Then we can sort of connect the dots and derive our own lessons from it, and I think good film, good art, good poetry, good writing, good music always brings us back to ourselves.
Yeah.
And also, gives us the opportunity to, to reflect on who we are as human beings. And, at the end of the day, I was talking to my friend recently, Frank Jasper, who made a great old film back in the 80s called Vision Quest. It's a wrestling film. And he played this just gnarly wrestler that could never be beat. And Frank and I, and he did my first film with me. We did Freeway Maniac, and then we worked on Conan at Universal Studios together. And then he ended up, being an acupuncturist, and so he's my guru, he's my nutrition guru, and he's always adjusting my protocols for herbs, and keeping my testosterone high and my HGH high, and, keeping my estradiol low, and keeping all my levels, and we were talking about this, and at this stage of the game, man, I'm 64, and I'm a young 64. I still can do lots of things that guys half my age can do, maybe even better.
Yeah, definitely.
But the thing is I'm going to leave this planet, and a lot sooner than you are, and a lot sooner than you are, and a lot sooner than a lot of people, most likely. And so Frank and I are talking about it, is like, well, what legacy do we leave? At what point does our work and our life become about making the world a better place? And, that's why I'm so proud to be involved with films like this, because, the people we work with, aside from being insanely creative, also give a rat's ass about where we're going as human beings.
Yeah.
And I think it's reflected in Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, and it will be reflected in Halloween Ends.
Definitely.
I think one of the legacies that you will have is the cinemas in the UK are really struggling. And I think with this film coming out, it's going to be one of the biggest films of the year. And I personally feel like it's going to bring a lot more people back in to the cinema and rejuvenate that business.
I hope so, man. I hope so. It's crazy. One of my old time friends, Chris Ryan, was Carlos Santana's keyboardist, and I saw him the last time I was in Los Angeles. We're hanging out, and he's got his gold records on the wall, and the dude is so talented, and he's produced a lot of stuff, and he's toured with lots of other great artists. And I didn't realize it, but he and his cohorts had done the math. So and it's the exact same thing in the UK. I know they reckon that with this COVID thing shut down, not only did musicians lose their work, but bartenders and doormen and hostesses and lighting people and grips, and so they reckon that 18 million people lost their work in 2020.
It's insane.
And I know because I have very good friends in the UK, some who run events, and their events are shut down. Venues are shutting down. I mean, so God, man, anything we can do to uplift, and live music is so important. Cinema, like in the theater, experiencing a film, especially like Halloween, because that collective energy when you're just when you're gripped, and you've got 300 people around you or 100 people around you, or when it's music, 1,000 people or 5,000 people, or that collective energy means so much to us as a community, as a species. And so for all of us, I hope all of it comes back.
Yeah, it's especially with, that's what I was going to ask you about cinemas, the future you see, especially with HBO moving a lot of productions going to HBO and going to sites. I think Dune and certain big productions are moving to it. There's certain films, as I said, when I went to watch 2008 Halliwell, and it's just when that score comes in, the Carpenter score, is like collectively everyone together. I don't like seeing where this is going, but it does look a bit like Screaming's trying to take over, and it's like we need big films like this.
I don't think big films will ever go away.
Yeah,
I think that the collective experience is always going to be important, just like it is for music. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely are so much luckier that we can stream music and that we can stream films, and you know, especially in this COVID era where, you know, me and my girl can sit down and you know, and stream any movie we want and still kind of stay current. I mean, it's not the same. It's and so, well, John Carpenter's, you know, his score, I mean, it nails you right in the amygdala, right? It goes right to the seat, you know, the part of the brain where fear exists, and you can't escape it.
Yeah.
You cannot escape it. I mean, it's once he hits it, I mean, what a masterful piece of music, man.
Yeah.
You know? So when you're around 100 people or 300 people or 500 people, and all of our amygdalas are firing, think of all the chemical reactions that are going on between those human beings, and that fear is just building and building and building. So, I mean, it's cool stuff. I don't think it'll ever go away. I think it'll become more. And you guys had this early on. I remember the first time I went to the UK was in 1975 when I graduated from high school, and I had a cousin who was serving at an RAF base over there, Chicksands in Luton, and
It's not far from me.
Yeah.
it's a beautiful place, man. I loved it. I spent a summer there, but you guys had already understood the value of going into the cinema and having a pint and a bite to eat, and you know, being able to really enjoy it as an experience. We hadn't gotten there yet. We were still, you know, doing popcorn and M&Ms, but you guys understood it, and I think that's where it's going to. You know, going into places, being able to have a few drinks, have something to eat, making it more of a social experience. But there's no way it can go away.
No.
I remember Jack, when me and Jack watched the 2018 one together, it was my first time watching it. Jack was telling me how at the beginning, when the British guy is holding the mask out, screaming at you, and it's all the cuts, and it was all building and building. He says as soon as that score started, he said everyone in the cinema it was just like a collective experience.
It was, yeah. It was just, and it's those moments that, you know, you can't get streaming at home, and it's sort of, it would just be horrific if that ended. I think I just don't understand how that could ever happen.
Well, when they were deciding whether they were going to postpone the release or not, Ryan Turek from Blumhouse and Ryan Freeman, who is partners with Malcolm Akkad and Trancas, who own the rights, they called me and they said, "Hey, you know, we're looking at COVID, we're looking at this, we're looking at that. What do you think about us postponing the release?" And my immediate response was, "Man, you know, hold off a year, hold off. First of all, we don't know what's going on with this thing, and we don't want to jeopardize the health of the fans, because we know there's so many fans that will go there no matter what, and we don't know what the complexity of this virus is. So, you know, we can afford to hold off a year." And I think I have a sneaking suspicion that because we had to wait a year, the anticipation of it is going to be even greater.
Yes, definitely.
And we just need to see it in the theaters, man. It's just one of those things. It just, you know, big screen TV is nice. Nothing like the theater.
I know.
No, I don't. I have some good news actually. I got a message from Zoom saying they've given me this whole meeting over 40 minutes for free, so we don't have to quit and restart.
Oh, look at that!
So,
look at that! You blessed us, James.
We stopped thinking about it, and it's manifested and it's come true. So, so that's worked out well. So yeah, we don't have to stop. So we can.
Oh, I love that. That's it. I'm 5 hours. I wanted to jump a bit. You talk about nostalgia, and we got some returning cast and crew. What was it like? You mentioned earlier about substance abuse, how good Jamie Lee Curtis is in that film. When she's drunk, especially at the dinner table scene, it's just masterful acting. I was just wondering, what was your experience meeting at set collectively, feeling like I am part of this Halloween family now?
Well, you know, for instance, Jamie, when she showed up on set, because I was there, I'm in every scene in 2018. I was there every day. In fact, I was on what they call turnaround. You're supposed to have a 12-hour break between the time you wrap and the time you start your next day. I worked so much, I was on constant turnaround. In other words, they had to pay me more money because I didn't get my 12 hours. Which was fine by me, man. So she shows up and she introduced herself. We had a pleasant, short conversation. And then I just left her alone because, you know, as an actor, I understand that you have to create certain energies between certain characters, and, you know, and it goes beyond just, oh, I'm acting. So I pretty much left her alone until we were preparing to do a fight scene, which, by the way, didn't make it to the final cut. We ended up reshooting the end. But I was at the opposite ends of a makeup trailer, a hair trailer with her. And she just marched down and said, "Okay, we got to talk about this fight." I was like, "Okay, cool." So, you know, we talked, we had a long talk, we worked out some stuff. And then from that point forward, we didn't talk anymore. And I gave her that space, and she, at the end of it, told one of the hair person, the key person, that, you know, she really would love to have gotten to know me. Oh, let me fast forward. So we were walking to set one day, and pretty much I wouldn't talk to her, but then we had a conversation. For some reason, we're walking to, you know, from the trailers to the set, and we got in this conversation. It went really deep, short but deep. And she goes, "Are you in the program? Are you sober?" And I was like, "No, that wasn't my cross to bear." And she goes, "Yeah, you sound like it. I mean, you talk like somebody who's been in the program." I mean, she's like, "Well, I've been sober 20 years, and you know, this is how people feel, and this is what they think." And so she drew on that experience of her addiction, you know, and she has such compassion and empathy, which most people who are in the program do, because they know the demons that it causes, and they know the pain it causes, and they know the struggles that ensue. So, and she's just such a talented actor. And then on Halloween Kills, we didn't work together at all. And then at the end, when we were supposed to do our photo shoot, and the photo shoot for the last one that created the poster and the juxtaposition of me at the side and her looking forward and that kind of thing, you know, we definitely worked well together. We had a very special energy together. And this time we were supposed to shoot together, but we missed each other, and they decided to CGI it, or you know, they glue it together with CGI and whatever miracle, magical, you know, mystical things they do in the photographic world. And she texted me and said, "Dan, I missed you, but you know, maybe it's better this way. Maybe it's better that you and I just don't communicate until after Ends is over, because, you know, we have this energy between us, and it really needs to be sacred." And we both agree. And we both agree with that. And our mutual friends, you know, all say that we both are saying the same thing. It's like, it's really important for us not to be in connecting as human beings right now, because the pathos that exists between these two characters has to be just raw and powerful.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, man, I mean, and you know, I got to tell you, just from what I do know, not only from being around her and watching her, I saw her interact, like during this particular fight scene that never made it to my mom, and a few of my nieces and nephews were down there shooting, first time they'd ever seen me work. And Jamie was so kind and generous to them, and she ran over and grabbed each one of the kids and had them lay down and, you know, be a stand-in for a kill, and, you know, made them all feel very special. I mean, she's an amazing woman. My nieces and nephews have grown up on her children's books, and, you know, so this woman is I mean, in an age of female empowerment, she's a freaking poster child, man. I mean, she is just such an empowered, kind, compassionate, self-deprecating woman. I mean, she's a woman.
She's one of the best final girls as well. Like, it is one of the most iconic final girls, really, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so young as well when she made that. Like,
oh, yeah. How old was she in the video? 19, I think she was, wasn't she? Really young in that.
I believe,
yeah. Moving on to a bit about your stunt work. I was wondering if you've had any, not like Bauer, but any like good stories to tell, or any injuries, because you've obviously been doing. You got a lot.
Well, you know, here's the thing: is, you know, so a lot of guys with stunt careers, and early on, especially back when I was there are a lot of very talented actors who were also stuntmen. And at a certain point, they had to make a decision, because back then, you know, back in the 80s and 90s. For some reason, people couldn't get the concept of chewing gum and walking at the same time. If you're a good actor, you couldn't possibly be a good stuntman. So you're an actor who does a little bit of stunts. Or if you're a good stuntman, you couldn't possibly be a great actor. So you're a stuntman who can throw out a few lines. So what a lot of, you know, my colleagues, Merritt Yanka, Alex Daniels, who I went to college with and is now a big time stunt coordinator, who I've worked with on tons of stuff, you know, a lot of really talented actors made the decision to just be a stuntman. And you know, so they're stunt double, they're stunt coordinating, they specialize in cars, they specialize in fights. And, you know, for me, I knew that eventually I was going to make my own films. I didn't realize it would take me this long to get my own films made, but, you know, it's all been a learning process. And, you know, sort of my master's degree in filmmaking has been all the work that I've done. But, you know, for me, being an actor stuntman was just fine. I can do dialects. I don't mind throwing out 4 or 5 lines, or, you know, being a lead is just, you know, a blast. I love doing my own stunt work. I love fighting. In the live show, The Adventures of Conan, I did like 3,000 high falls and probably 7,000 broadsword fights. So, even in that show alone, concussions, I probably got, I don't know, 50 or 60 stitches. I've had 3 surgeries on this hand going through a window, knowing I was going to get cut. And when you go through a window, you don't know where you're going to get cut. You just know you probably are going to get cut. And I had 3 surgeries on this hand to yank glass out of it. And, that's kind of, it's also, if you do anything athletic, I'm not going to compare myself to a UFC fighter because those guys are sick how well they train and the beatings they take. But a guy knows when he gets in the octagon or a boxing ring, or a guy knows when he plays, American football or rugby, or, you're going to get hurt. Sooner or later, you're going to get hurt. And that's just part of the game, man. It's just a part of the game.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it either way. If I would have done this, I would have played professional football or something, I'd have found a way to screw my body up, in other words. So.
No, that's brilliant. My last question, I wanted to get into the future of Halloween. I wanted to sort of know, future down the line, if you'd ever want to play Michael again, or if you'd want to see it move into a different narrative with different characters. Just your main opinion on it.
Well, I think it would depend on the script. It would depend on who's making it. Right now, Roughhouse, Danny and David and David Gordon Green and Blumhouse and Universal Studios and Trancas had a 3-picture deal. They knew they were making 3 movies together. So it stands to reason that I would play this character 3 times, and that, and who knows when the next iteration will be made. Would I be open to it? Absolutely. Am I going to chase it? Not a chance. Not a chance. But if it were right, and if that writer and director and production team and studio came in and said, it's X many years later and we think you'd be great at it, and I sat down with the directors and the producers and really was impressed with what I saw, I would love to do it. And at that point in the game, it becomes about respect for respect for what John Carpenter and Deborah Hill and Nick Castle created, and then the brilliance of David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, and the love that Ryan Turek and the guys at Blumhouse put into it, and Universal Studios. My favorite horror films go back to the early Universal. Like Frankenstein is my hands down favorite horror film, hands freaking down.
The 31 one, of course, yeah.
Yeah, right. And my dad, my dad's a big dude, 6'5", 250. Big little arms, and he used to hold us kids and watch these horror films. We'd sit in front of the couch on the floor, and we'd all watch these scary movies. We'd huddle up into them. So, for me, I look at Universal and their mastery at, these 100 years of filmmaking and releasing films, and how well they've handled this franchise. Will somebody be able to duplicate that? I don't know. No Halloweens have been handled in this particular way by this amazing group of, collective of production and distribution.
Yeah, that's what we've done. We're obviously going for a lot of the horror film franchises, and I enjoy all the Halloweens. But as I said, I think everything, when it goes on, the nightmares, all the different ones, they get a bit silly, or they go for different narratives. This is such a fresh take. I think we watched it, didn't we, the first time, and it just feels completely different. It's almost like 78, and this stands alone out of the rest, and it feels like, it almost feels safe, this franchise with Blumhouse at the moment, Universal. It's sort of connected well.
Well, that was, was intentional. Like, so, David, when they all got together and they talked to John Carpenter and they started formulating this, they decided to treat everything between 78 and 2018 as urban myth, right? So it gave them the freedom to, first of all, David Gordon Green is a masterful filmmaker. And being that David and Danny and those guys do comedy, I've said it before, I say it a million times, I can't say it enough. Comedians, above all other artists on the planet, have a deeper understanding of humanity than anybody else, because they see humanity for what it is, and they see the irony of being human. And when, comedy is all about irony. If you got no irony, there is no comedy. they don't need to make shit up. They can just see, what we are as human beings.
Through it, yeah.
You're gonna laugh at this because you're a freaking idiot, But, you know what I mean? It's like, so their capacity as comic writers and comic filmmakers and comic television, and they've also done beautiful drama, but their ability to see the world for what it is so far richer and more understanding than you would think. So they captured lightning in a bottle, I think. And the fact, and I remember, man, when I got the call to do Kills, and they're like, yeah, David's directing again, and I was like, wow, man, this guy's got balls. I'm like, you just directed one of the most successful horror films in history, one of the most, second biggest box office ever, biggest Halloween box office ever, and you're gonna follow that up, because doing a sequel to your own movie is dangerous.
Yes,
it's dangerous, man. I mean, you could really, but dude, he nailed it. He freaking nailed it.
Yeah,
he's nailed it. And I mean, I hope you agree. I believe you will when you see it. Come October. So, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, will somebody be able to do that again? Where would they take it? What kind of creative genius would it take to take what David and all the other guys have done, Chris Nelson and everybody involved? I mean, every single department. I mean, and everybody was there for 2018 in Kills, and it was almost exactly the same people. We're all to the man and woman. We're like, this film is why we do what we do.
Yeah, that's a good point you made there. With that's educated me a little bit. I'll be honest, when I first saw on the project like Danny McBride, it did seem a bit strange. I was like, what? Because he's such a good comedy writer as well. But as you said, it gives you such an insight. That kind of mindset, being a comedian like that as well, that they're so much more down to earth as well. That's a really good point, that is.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this about Danny and David as well. Danny, I mean, he's a funny guy, but he's a better audience. Like, if you sit in a conversation with 3 or 4 people, Danny's not trying to be the funniest guy in the room. Danny's listening. He's freaking listening, and he's laughing. You know what I mean? He's absorbing all this stuff. And like I said, David is empathic. I mean, David is absorbing every emotion everybody is feeling. I mean, he'll tell you himself, if you're feeling it, I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
So, the unique, I mean, and then of course the technicals, they all went to the North Carolina School of the Arts. I mean, it's like a fraternity, Rough House is. I mean, it really is. It's like all these guys who went to college together are now working together.
Yeah.
But I had this feeling from Halloween, like on 2018, and again in Kills, I somehow in 4th grade, I figured out reincarnation. I have no idea how or why, but that's been a part of my philosophy ever since. And I had this overwhelming sense, which you don't always have in a film, that we had all done this together before, all of us. We'd been some community, or maybe we were some Shakespearean troupe, or maybe we'd all marched into battle and got our asses kicked together. Who knows, But we all had this feeling that we knew each other. I mean, the flow, I mean, normally there are blow-ups on the set and people with egos and arguments, and, and that can just happen because it's a high-stress situation. You have highly creative people who might have different points of view. There was none of that. None of that. I mean, just so, we stepped in. It's almost like when we stepped into Kills, we had just been there the week before on 18. And I know it's going to feel the exact same way come, this fall when we shoot Halloween Ends. It's going to be the same.
Yeah. No, that seems to be, like you said then, about them staying connected through college, and you build friendships, and then this production is like a family. As I said, there's so many. James Wan, the director of Saw, and he said they had their Rat Pack trio, where they called it like a new Asian wave of horror. And it was sort of like the same thing, all collectively directors knowing each other, or people they worked on Insidious, and they kept going with it. It seems to just work so much better. Like, they almost want to just bubble wrap this now and leave it with Blumhouse and Universal and be like, look, we've got the formula good here. Let's, if we are going to do any more, let's leave it with them.
Yeah, well, and I mean, Jason Blum has really created something special. Clearly, he has an amazing vision. He's and Ryan Turk is the guy who was one of the instrumental guys in bringing this whole thing about. I mean, he did a lot of hustling between Malik and, Miramax that owned the rights at the time, and pulling those rights away, and, all the things, all the moving parts that needed to happen. A lot of people really stuck their necks out to make this happen. This wasn't easy. It's never easy, I mean, there's nothing easy about it. It's all business, and there's no hard feelings. There's no, but at the end of the day, you've got to negotiate contracts, and, people have to fit schedules, and then there's points of view. But at the end of the day too, with Jamie being one of the producers and her being such an incredibly talented, high quality, high integrity human being. I mean, but at the end of the day, it all starts at the top, and the top is David Gordon Green.
Yeah.
And the way he relates to other human beings, his he doesn't suffer fools gladly. He's not in the fucking around. He's got work to do. We were packing like 2 and 3 days into a single day. I mean, we were getting a lot of stuff done, and we had a very short, shoot schedule. 6 weeks is not a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to see, man. Who knows?
Yeah.
Even because back in 2018, I wasn't a huge horror fan. I'd always my friends would take me to the cinema and I'd watch something and I think, oh, that didn't scare me. Then when I saw the trailers coming out for this new Halloween, I thought it feels different. Like there was just something different about this trilogy. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was this energy that all you guys were just, the love that you put into this film was just being absorbed into the world by people just watching it and realizing this is going to be incredible. It's going to be so different.
Thank you for that. I think part of it too is like from early on, I developed what I called the yeah right quotient. So like if you go into a film and you're sitting in there and say, the characters are musicians or they're footballers or they're whatever, and you happen to be a footballer or you happen to be a tennis player or whatever, and you see them doing things that you would never do on a pitch, that you would never do on a court, that you would never do with an axe in your hand. You go, yeah, right. And to me, you get 3 yeah rights in a film. By the 3rd yeah right, you've lost your audience. In fact, I was I wrote a screenplay. I was brought on to co-write with the biographer of a jockey named Randy Romero. Tom Benson, the owner of the New Orleans Saints, was going to finance the film. Long story short, they won the Super Bowl. Everything fell apart because they were all tied up in the Super Bowl for a year and a half. But I was traveling on the horse circuit, in Saratoga and Churchill Downs and all these amazing places. And I had carte blanche, and I'm hanging out with, Governor of Kentucky and billionaires that own, diamond mines, and like really learning the horse world. And at one point I was in the press box. It's when Secretariat came out. And I was in the press box sitting behind all the journalists, because the Saratoga meet is a really big meet in the United States. And the journalists hated Secretariat, but they didn't hate it because they weren't going on and on about the film as a whole. They were seeing things like, well, there's a scene where Secretariat pisses on a guy's shoe. And the journalists would go, goddamn horses don't piss sideways. He'd have to stick his goddamn foot under the fucking horse, and I'm going, okay, so that was a yeah right. But that yeah right lost the journalists who are going to tell the audience to go see the movie. So, you know what I mean? So there's this through line, and that's that minor attention to detail is what David and all those guys, and all those, I mean, everybody involved in these films, they huddle, they talk. And if something's not working, whether it's not working for me or Jamie or Ryan or Chris or, whoever, we all speak up, not feeling right about this. And this, I mean, everybody has that collective desire to make sure that there's 0 yeah rights. Like everything makes sense to the audience. And when the audience looks up and sees themselves and believes everything and knows that that's the way things are, dude, you got it.
And it kind of appeals to everyone, because you have Laurie Strode, who are, for the people who watched the original, you can relate to that character. We're young people, so we're relating to the granddaughter, and then you've got our parents who are relating to the parent, Laurie Strode's daughter. So there's stuff for everyone in there. Like you're covering all the bases essentially.
Yeah. It's I think you guys are gonna like Halloween Kills. It's Halloween 2018 on steroids. It's jacked, man. It's jacked up.
No, I can't wait. Yeah,
and I look forward to, when I get to the UK, we'll get there sooner or later, man. I look forward to seeing you guys in person.
Yeah, we'll definitely come again, because we were talking about different, people to get as well. And I was instantly like, we've got to get James, because you're just so nice as well. I know it's limited time we had, but I instantly was like, we've got to get James. He's just such so humble and like down to earth as well.
I'm a dick. Don't don't let appearances fool you. Ask my 6 younger brothers, man.
Thank you so much.
Who I am.
Definitely do it again, and look forward to Halloween Kills as well.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. I really believe so.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah.
Thank you, James.
Have a good rest of your day, and yeah,
Awesome,
good
guys.
luck with the filming.
And I can't wait for. I can't wait. I love the UK. In fact, I think I have a feeling I'm gonna own a home there sooner or later. I love it that much. So you know, I'll look forward to being back soon and commiserating with you guys.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
Awesome.
Goodbye.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Peace,
Bye.
guys. Thanks.